Hi, and thank you so much for stopping by. This is Jennifer McGuire. So a couple weeks ago, I did a video with a bunch of different techniques, and one of the ones I shared is doing a faux metal etched look. I'll link to that video here in case you missed it, but I promised I would be back with more about this technique, and that's what I have for you today. I do want to start out by apologizing because it is really hard to capture in photos the shine and texture of this technique, and it's even hard to capture it in video. So you'll just have to trust me that it is really cool in real life. And the best part about this technique is you create a really special card in no time at all. It's super fast to do. Now, most of my cards today feature this special stamp set from Honeybee Designs called Hope Anchors the Soul. Now, this set was designed by Melissa, the owner of Honeybee Stamps. She has a heart the size of Montana. I tell you, she's super generous. And this theme is perfect because she's using it to earn money to help with the hurricane relief in the Bahamas. This is something that's very special to me, so I'm honored to get to use it today. I will put information in my description below about the organizations that will be supporting with the sales of this stamp set and with this video. Okay, let's get going on our cards here. For this technique, you'll need some sort of matte mirror cardstock. So this is a shiny cardstock. It's shiny on one side. There are many options available, and I'll link to some below, but I decided to use these silver and blue matte mirror cardstocks for today's video. I thought it went along nicely with like an ocean feel. Now you could use a regular mirror cardstock, one that's so shiny you can see your reflection, but I feel that the results are more impactful when you use a matte mirror cardstock like this. For my stamping, I'm using a MISTI stamping tool, but you definitely could use an acrylic block. Now, before we do our heat embossing, you'll need to use an anti-static powder tool. I just rub this across the surface of my cardstock, and that way I can get clean embossing. So now I am inking up the anchor image with VersaMark ink, which is just a clear sticky ink. And right away, you'll see the shine that you get in that area. Next, I'm taking good old-fashioned clear embossing powder, and I'll add that to our image. And you'll just want to knock off any excess powder that ends up in other areas. I will heat my heat gun for a few seconds so that it's nice and hot. Then I'll bring it to the cardstock to melt that powder. And what you get is a shiny look wherever you have the embossing. And it looks like you've etched the metal cardstock. So it looks like it's etched, but it's actually raised. It gives such beautiful results in real life. This works really well for backgrounds or just for special featured images like this one. And when you're done, you can just go ahead and use a dry cloth to wipe off that extra anti-static powder. Now, I did want to show you what this looks like on a regular mirror cardstock. You can see this is a perfect mirror. It does give a cool effect, but not as much as when you use the matte. Because when you clear emboss, it makes it shiny. And since this has a shiny background, it doesn't show up as much, but you definitely could use this if you wanted. Okay, now that I've talked about the products you need and how to do the technique, let's go ahead and do this on cards. And I'm going to do some fun layered embossing. For this one, I'm using the Honeybee Ocean Borders stamp set. I really like this large ocean-looking background stamp, and I thought it would be perfect to be a backdrop to our anchor image. Once again, I'm using my anti-static powder tool. Sometimes I kind of dab it onto the cardstock first to get some of the powder out, and then wipe it across, because you want to be sure that you cover this entirely, so you get a nice, clean-looking embossed image. Once again, I'm inking it up with VersaMark ink and stamping it. And right away, you'll see that the stamped image becomes shiny against the matte mirror around it. Now, you could try to heat set this so that it dries like this, but I think it's best to add the clear embossing powder because then you get the texture too. Now, any kind of clear embossing powder should work here. Make sure your gun is good and hot before you bring it to your cardstock. And then you can go ahead and heat set it and check out that cool metal etched look. It just looks awesome in real life. And it actually almost looks kind of holographic. It gets like this iridescent-y shine to it. Now, I didn't want to cover up this background by putting cardstock pieces on top, so I decided to heat emboss directly onto it. I'm using my anti-static powder tool again, and now I have the anchor set up in my MISTI. I'll stamp this with VersaMark ink right on top of our embossing. And then I will add white embossing powder this time. So this will give us a white heat embossed image that stands out against our background. Now after I heat set this and let it cool, I put it back into my MISTI stamping tool. And I'm inking up the same stamp with VersaMark ink, and I'm going to stamp it again directly on top of our first white heat embossed image. I will then add more white embossing powder. This will give us a double layer of white embossing for this image. You don't have to do this, but I think it helps to give a smoother result since we're stamping on top of a textured background. I just feel like it makes it stand out a bit more. Now our last layer of embossing will be the sentiment. So I'm putting this back into my MISTI, and I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Grid Transparency. This is the perfect card size, and I just place it on top of our panel, and I can make sure our sentiment is centered and lined up with that grid. Close the door on my MISTI, and now we can stamp it, and it'll be perfectly positioned. This time I'm once again stamping with VersaMark ink, but I'm going to use a darker embossing powder here. I want this part to stand out more against the background. This is Simon Says Stamp Mermaid Blue Embossing Powder. It's a beautiful dark blue, and it has some sparkle in it, so it's perfect for this. So I can go ahead and add that, warm up my heat gun, and heat set this. Once it's cool, I'm going to repeat the process. This will make the embossing of this sentiment even thicker and allow it to stand out even more. So I double heat embossed the anchor and the sentiment. I wanted to keep this card super simple since there's so much texture going on, so I just matted it with a die cut that I created using the My Favorite Things stitched rectangle dies. When I have a simple card, I like to use the Faux stitched dies to create a mat instead of just cutting it because I feel like it adds some fun detail. So here's the completed card. I trimmed down our heat emboss panel, added it onto this stitched panel, and then added it to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch note card that I made from Gina K Tropical Teal cardstock. Now if you look closely at our anchor, there are also some white gemstones. I used these awesome gems from Honeybee. They come in a bunch of different colors. I used the ocean colored ones for today's cards. They're great because the adhesive's on the back and you can quickly and easily add them to your card. I used the white iridescent ones on our anchor in this card. Okay, my next card uses the example I created earlier in this video, where I clear heat embossed the anchor on the matte silver cardstock. Well, let's finish that up to create a card. This time I am using that Simon Says Stamp Grid Transparency once again over my card panel to line up a different sentiment from that Hope Anchors the Soul stamp set. That grid is very helpful in making sure things are centered and straight in your MISTI. So once I have it positioned just right, I close the door on my MISTI, and now we can do our heat embossing. I use my anti-static powder tool, stamped with VersaMark ink, and once again use the Mermaid Blue embossing powder. I did repeat this process, stamping it once again and heat embossing it once again to make sure the sentiment stood out quite nicely against that background. This trick of doubling up your embossing is something you can do anytime with heat embossing. So say you heat emboss and it doesn't look perfect, just do another layer and it'll look better. It also helps to give smoother results that have more dimension. So here you can see that faux metal etching of the anchor and then the sentiment that stands out. So I trimmed that down and added it to one of the faux stitched die cuts and then onto a note card. I then tied a bow from some old silver ribbon that I had, put a dot of liquid adhesive, and then I could glue that right onto the top of our anchor. And I just put an acrylic block on there so it dried nicely. I did also add some clear iridescent gems from those Honeybee gem packs that I showed you onto the anchor just so it would catch the light nicely. Okay, our next example features that dark blue mirror matte cardstock. I think it's just gorgeous. So I once again used my anti-static powder tool and stamped the waves image with VersaMark ink and added clear embossing powder. After heat setting it, it's time to white heat emboss our anchor on top. So I always use the anti-static powder tool, stamp with VersaMark ink, add the white embossing powder, heat set it, and once it's cool, I repeated the process again for that double layer. Now once I was done with this, I trimmed it down a little bit and added it to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch note card, kind of set to the side. I also added a thin strip of the silver matte mirror cardstock to go right along the edge for a finished look. And then I added a Hugs die cut sentiment. So the Hugs word I die cut 3 times from white cardstock, and I glued it together for a stacked look. And then I cut the shadow from vellum and glued that behind it. I also added some of the white gemstones from the Honeybee gem set that I showed you. And then I also added a Be Still and Know sentiment. That's from this Simon Says Stamps stamp set, and I thought it went along nicely with the anchor image. I'm really liking the look of this faux metal etching technique on the colored matte mirror cardstocks. I think it's really beautiful and helps to make the card stand out a bit. Okay, I have one more example using a different stamp set. I just wanted to show the versatility of this technique. So this time I did the technique with a heart image and did a simple die cut on top. This is the Honeybee Grateful Heart stamp set. I really like the detail in that large heart, but keep in mind you could do this technique with background stamps or anything that you may have. So this time I'm using a light rose matte mirror cardstock, and I did my anti-static powder tool, stamped with VersaMark ink, and then added the clear embossing powder. And you can see the beautiful subtle results that you get with this. I felt like this was the perfect backdrop for a bold die cut sentiment, so I used the Honeybee Thinking of You die, and I die cut it 3 times from white cardstock and glued them together so that it would have some dimension. And then I glued that onto our mirror background. You can see I also used regular silver mirror cardstock to create that shiny strip that you see on the side. And I also added a few pink gemstones just to catch the light. I really like techniques like this that allow you to keep a card very simple but still have a lot of interest. Okay, there you have a fun faux metal etching technique. I hope you'll give it a try. If you're interested in these products, they are linked below, along with information on that hurricane relief. In the middle are a couple other videos you might like. I am so thankful you spent this time with me today, and I will see you again very soon.